Oh, good Lord. Ah, heavy. Hey folks, Eddie from Totally Wired Guitars here, and I'm super excited because I'm finally getting to review something that I've been wanting to review ever since it came out a couple weeks ago. I'm late to the party, but unfortunately, unlike some of my other more well-known guitar creator friends who are sponsored by Fender and get new guitars for free in exchange for their reviews, I have no such privilege. Not yet, at least. Hopefully soon. Fender, sponsor me. But thankfully, I've got the kind folks over at Zounds who've got my back and invited me recently to their creator partner program where they send me guitars on loan for me to review for you all. So today, finally, we are going to be unboxing and reviewing the Fender limited Vintera 2 road-worn Jazzmaster. We are going to go ahead and unbox this. This has the those huge and sharp staples up at the top here. So I'm just gonna crank them up and throw them away before I end up stepping on one of these shits, Home Alone style, end up looking like Marv or Harry over here. This box feels like it weighs like 30 pounds, if not more. And that is because this, unlike a lot of Fender's Vintera releases, actually comes with a hard shell case. All right, here we go. You got this, Eddie. You got this. You got this, baby. All right, there we go. And here is our case. I believe this is one of their classic series wooden cases. Yep, not one of the G&G cases, which I feel like they phased out a while ago, unfortunately. But this is a decent case regardless. So we will lean it like this. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, so here we are. Finally, the Fender limited road-worn Vintera 2. And I don't know how limited this is actually going to be, how long they are going to be doing this run, but hopefully for a while because people are seeming to love it and we are going to put it to the test because I'm a tough customer. And, you know, I'm clearly not a shill because they're not sending me these guitars for free. So I'm going to be giving you my very, very honest opinion on this thing today. I believe inside of the case, we've probably got a bit of our case candy, where our tremolo arm is going to reside. And there it is, the little case candy sleeve here, which has got our vibrato arm, as well as precautions for lacquer finishes, because indeed this thing is nitrocellulose lacquer. We want to install our tremolo arm to get the full experience right from the jump. So we're going to pop in this arm. And it is not loose in the collet, which is nice. Very nice. Even the vibrato arm tip feels aged. So they were pretty comprehensive about aging all of the parts. And it's funny because right out of the box, this is giving custom shop vibes. This feels a bit like a Journeyman to me. I had a Fiesta Red Journeyman in the shop a couple months ago, and the look of this with the weather checking, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see in the light here, but there is a bunch of just little cracks all over this finish to emulate what happens when the wood on the guitar shrinks and expands. You can see those little cracks shining in the light there, right? And the neck is nice and worn in. We've got a bunch of little dings on the edge of the headstock here. And they did, just as far as relics go, just a very tasteful job at doing this road worn. Seriously, I am I'm shocked. I am shocked. I hope it plays and sounds as good as it looks. And I also noticed that they even did the amber switch tip, which is a nice little touch there. I just got to say, this friggin' neck, this neck feels hella good. This feels like and looks like they upped their game, because again, this neck feels even better to me than the Journeyman custom shop that was in here, which is nuts, right? Because this thing is what, $16.99, which is, you know, not an insignificant amount of money, but still, as compared to a friggin' custom shop, a lot of those guitars starting at $6,000. The fact that Ensenada was able to pull this off is nutty, just plain nutty to me. The action is quite high out of the box. The neck here has a kind of sticky, the fretboard, it almost feels like it's got like a film on it, and I don't know if that's the result of, you know, whatever kind of treatment they've done on this to age it, because I don't feel that on the back, but the frets themselves feel like they have, and I don't know, I mean, you know what? Actually, if you buy a vintage guitar, this is very similar to that feeling of just, you know, 60-year-old grime. So that is something that, while I appreciate, yeah, they even, not gonna lie, they were not joking around. They even aged the friggin' frets on this thing, right? It's got kind of like a, it looks like it's got some kind of film on it, like a grease or something, and I can even see they don't come to a mirror shine here. So they are undoubtedly suspending our disbelief by by even aging the frets. But let's go ahead and switch to the bench cam now, because I want to dial this in. I want to be able to enjoy this guitar, and the action is just too high. I'll get a reading for you on just how high it is, or if it needs a shim, because right now it does look like the bridge is sitting at the 2 millimeters that you would probably want it to. All right, so yeah, let's take a couple measurements, the nerdy stuff. We'll get it out of the way before we play it, and then I'll go over the specs and stuff with you all. There's no script. There's never a script, folks, here at Totally Wired Guitars. That's why it takes me forever. That's why these videos are so friggin' long. But yeah, we need our handy dandy little gauge from our friends over at Fret Guru. This is my gauge of choice for many different things. This is a fret rocker, right? It's a string action gauge. It's a nut slot depth gauge. It's so many different things. And if you need a gauge, you buy this and you will never have to buy another one, I promise you. So shout outs to them. Let's just take a look. Yeah, the bridge is sitting right around that sweet spot that I personally like it, which is the 2.5 millimeters high on the bass side. And the cool thing is, I don't need to worry about dinging this thing up, because it's already got dings and stuff all over the place. All right, and then here on this side, we've got, I'm gonna call that about 3.5 millimeters on the treble side, and still the action is high. So what that tells me is I am going to need to shim this guitar. So we're gonna go ahead and shim it and then see where we're at. I work with good folks. I only work with good folks, and that's why I shout out to folks a lot. But I bought these little, I don't know if this is fiberboard, but these are basically the same exact shims that used to come in those 60s Fenders, the actual vintage 60s Fenders. And these are made and sold by Mr. Curtis Novak, one of the absolute goats of offset pickup makers. The tuners feel nice. The tuners feel nice and tight, in a good way, in the best way. I wonder if these are actually Gotos. I'm very, very curious. In fact, since we're already in nerd mode, maybe we can just get all this nerd mode stuff out of the way now, right? Take a look under the hood. What's going on? Pull one of these tuners off. See if it's actually a Goto, right? Let's do the tuner first. That's one of the easiest things. We're going to take off our vibrato arm again for this. And when I take off the vibrato arm, I will typically lock, because that, prevents you from being able to pull up the vibrato. That came out pretty easily. And then I'll unlock it again. And now we've got a PW. So these are their, I should have known better. I shouldn't have thought that it was going to be anything other than what it usually is, which is, you see the little PW there? That is a ping tuner. Ping's been upping their game though. Let's go ahead and see what's going on under the pick guard here. See if maybe they listened to feedback about the, the lack of shielding from the other previous, just standard Vintera 2 non-road worn, because that was a strange omission, in my opinion. Because how much, especially, even the Vintera 2 Jazzmaster Jaguar Mustang, those are like $1,500 guitars, right? At least the Jaguar is. What's the Vintera 2 Jazzmaster, like $1,300 or something like that? If you have to pay taxes and shipping, then easily you'll be at $1,500. So maybe actually this is a good time so that I'm not wasting time. Let's cover these specs. We've got an alder body with a nitro cellulose finish on both the body and the neck. It has been road worn or aged or relic, however way you want to call it, but tastefully so. They haven't done any, like very fake looking arm wear or overdid anything with regards to that aspect of the guitar. So that is nice to see that, whoever was managing this project or this release has good taste, because things can go crazy with relics, right? I know that it's a polarizing topic, one that is had by folks online ad nauseum at this point. And it's just like, let people like what they like, right? Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? It's not stolen valor, you friggin' munch. People just want it to feel like, they just want it to feel nice and comfy and worn in. And maybe they don't want to baby their guitars. And so it having a couple dings, a couple scratches, right? Or at their most extreme, looking like it's been through a goddamn war. Tornado, natural disaster of some type. Some of them look like they've been through a friggin' oil spill. Yeah, let people like what they like. Who cares? Who cares? So even down to the friggin' screws. Even the screws are road worn, which is nice. And don't worry, before anybody yells at me, okay, about using a drill to take these out, I've got it on the lowest torque setting. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Now, the one thing on here that is a little unrealistically relict, in my personal opinion, is the vibrato. Because the vibrato, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that, but it's just got all of these like little micro scratches. It's like very clearly it was like, put in some kind of tumbler with a bunch of like little rocks or something. And if you take a look at an actual vintage tremolo, none of them ever look like this, right? They are still as shiny as the day that they were made. And maybe the patina on them is like a little, you know, hazy, right? Maybe some of them have rusted over a little bit. Maybe you'll see a scratch or 10, right? But not like a gajillion little scratches. So that's the one thing. I mean, that's the same. They do that same shit on the custom shop guitars, but a small gripe, just a small one. Ooh, and I can feel like a bit of like a grease or something inside of the cavity here. Must be another part of what is used to relic this thing. But there is no ground at the vibrato. So don't you go do anything stupid. Like I mentioned in a YouTube short and Instagram reel very recently, where supposedly there's a video, maybe multiple videos out there, that is telling people that they need to shield their vibrato cavities, even if they don't have a friggin' tremolo ground in there. I would love to find that video, because that is some serious piece of misinformation. And we are opened up, and it is the same exact thing as the same exact thing as the Vintera 2 normal edition. Absolutely zero shielding in here. Not even a little bit. Okay. The only thing that is effectively shielding this guitar right now is the pick guard, and that does not actually create a complete Faraday cage. So if your whole thing is, I'm trying to minimize noise, not only the 60 cycle hum, but you're also trying to minimize, you know, electronic interference coming into the guitar from cell phones and other stuff, then this is absolutely not going to cut it. And so for $16.99, guys, come on, a couple brushes of friggin' shielding paint couldn't have cost you more than probably, you know, what would it have costed you? $1? Right? Like not even, because of the fact that you buy that stuff in bulk. Anyway, so yeah, the rest of the stuff under here, aside from that I just pointed out, is good stuff, right? We've got our CTS 1 meg pots for our volume and tone. We've got the, I don't know if this is Switchcraft. I think they started to produce their own 3-way switches. So I think this is just the Fender made 3-way switch. If not, it's a Switchcraft. I see Switchcraft logo on the input jack. We've also got another 2 CTS mini pots, ceramic caps. They even started using like a tinier cap for the lead circuit here, which is hilarious. Not even a disc cap or a dime cap anymore, but they've got one up here in the rhythm section for some reason. We also have you know, another Switchcraft switch up here, the on-off switch for your rhythm circuit. And we've got cloth covered leads for the pickups themselves, but we have the PVC coated wiring for the rest of the circuit, which again, for $1,700, guys. Our ground wire is sent to the thimble, the bridge thimble here, and that's it. So if this was mine to keep, I would definitely be shielding this guitar everywhere except for the vibrato cavity. Let's talk about the rest of the specs that we've got going on here. So we've got a 7 1/4 radius neck with a rosewood fretboard and a maple bass. It's got a slimmer taper neck, C-shape slimmer taper. It's supposed to be replicating the thinner necks of the earliest years of the pre-CBS era, which goes from 19 Honestly, the inception of the Jazzmaster was actually 1958. It was released to the masses in 1959. And they came with these anodized gold guards. But unlike this one, those ones had brass shielding plates and tubs all throughout. So let's tuck all of our wiring back the way that it should be. You got to be careful when you are messing with these, messing around with the wiring and stuff here. These, in my experience, these soldering joints for these pickups are not the most sturdy. And so, one too many times of pulling the pickups and putting them back in can easily result, if you don't know what you're doing, in you breaking the lead or ground wire off of the pickup itself. And then you have to, if you even have a soldering iron, you have to solder it back in, which is a dicey procedure if you've never done it before, because the actual coil wire, right, really is very, very sensitive. Curiously, the one thing that they didn't age here, at least that I'm noticing, is the pick guard. They aged the pickups. They aged, it looks like they aged the pickups. They aged the pickup covers. They aged the tuners, the vibrato plate, the bridge. They aged even the dang frets. They aged the neck, the body, but they didn't age the anodized pick guard. I wonder why. That's fascinating to me. Moving on with these specs, we have also got a 42 millimeter nut width on this guy, or 1.65 inches wide. Pretty standard for most modern Fender guitars. If this actually was true to vintage spec, that nut width would have been 1 5/8 inch. So ever so slightly narrower, but you can feel the difference when you actually have a, an actual vintage Jazzmaster. And we've got vintage tall frets. So the vintage talls are only ever so slightly taller than an actual vintage size fret. Vintage tall frets are like 45 thousandths of an inch, whereas vintage frets are 39 thousandths of an inch tall, but they are the same width. One other nerdy thing that we can get out of the way too here before we move on to installing the shim on this guy is we can get a read on the output of our pickups here. I keep this Radio Shack multimeter because Radio Shack was awesome, and I'm sad that they no longer exist. Super sad. So we are getting a read of 8.18 on the bridge. Wow. That's substantial. And on the neck, we are getting a read of 7.65. And so, yeah, you are going to find that the 50s inspired pickups are wound a little bit hotter. The Duncan Antiquities, for example, are usually wound to about like over 8K. I've seen ones as high as 8.65 on those. And that results in having a bit more mids, a bit darker, woollier, woodier kind of tone overall. So yeah, that is correct for the era, but the one thing that isn't correct is that they used gray bobbins. So we are just going to throw this shim in. So this shim here is about 0.75 millimeters thick. Okay. So the neck plate also is super aged. Vintage neck plates don't often look like this. You'll see some scratches maybe from belt buckles, but they never look like this. Again, small gripe. Who cares, right? I don't. And very carefully going to lift our neck straight up. You can see that the Curtis Novak shim is right at the very inside of that neck pocket now. And we're going to very carefully put the neck back in again. And it is a very tight neck pocket too. So you want to be extra careful. This may even result in too much shim, but it shouldn't. I don't think that the neck pockets on these are pre-angled. And now I'm seeing that the action is indeed lower, which is what I want. So getting some gnarly sympathetic vibrations here, but that is obviously expected, especially with this kind of bridge. A few more things I wanted to check out very quickly, and just wanted to see how they dialed in the radius. So we're going to start off by just doing a quick check above these strings for that 7 1/4 radius, and we are slightly off. We could use a tiny bit more height on the D saddle. So we are going to raise that. Let's check it one more time. Yep, we're good. And then let's check with our under the string. And yep, no rocking. So everything is good with the setup now. For the most part, the only other thing that I probably would do at this part here was to check the neck relief, but it feels good and the fretboard is not buzzing. I want to play this friggin' thing. Okay, so let's do that first. All right. So with everything set and ready to go, just gonna play it acoustically. Very quick. Oh, I am getting a bit of rattle. It's the way sometimes that the bridge ends up getting seated, and the thimbles in this, I noticed when I pulled off the vibrato for us to look at the guts, these thimbles have a much narrower inner bore to them. So the likelihood of the bridge straying a little too far forward or a little too far back, and then the actual bridge posts or legs like vibrating against the walls of the thimbles is what causes this kind of rumbling sound. So that is one big ding, I would say. And also it makes it harder because I don't even think like one of the American Pro 7 1/4 bridges would fit inside these thimbles and still be able to rock. So that's a bummer. That's not something that I feel like right now we're going to be able to really do that much about, because if we take a look, this has like literally, I'm pushing and you can see it's got very little place to go here. You're just going to have to take my word for it because the tracking on my camera is not doing this so hot. But look, I'm wiggling it and you can see that it's barely going anywhere. And I do not think that this is meant to be, if Fender intended for this to be a fixed bridge, that would be a very ill-conceived idea, because this is one of their vintage style bridges. Doesn't actually have saddle slots on it. It's supposed to actually rock. And the fact that I can barely make it rock with my fingers is a huge problem. So that's why we are getting kind of that rumbly sound, because otherwise it feels good. It feels good right now. That's annoying. I don't like that. If this had a Mustang bridge, it'd be a bit more forgivable. But the fact that it has one of these threaded saddle bridges is mad annoying. That's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world, but something that you should obviously know. You might need to swap out these thimbles for, I would recommend AVRI thimbles, like get the actual genuine Fender ones. I think they're like, I don't know, less than 20 bucks. It just gives you more room to rock, and you shouldn't be getting those annoying vibrations. Here we've got the AVRI thimbles. So if we check the inner diameter of this one, I'm getting like 7.76 or about 7.8, maybe even 8. Yeah, let's just call it about 7.8. So that is a whole millimeter bigger. You can see just how much bigger the inner diameter of that one is versus that one there. So the very first bridge that we will try is one of Fender's own. If we take a look at this, you can see that the legs of this are significantly thicker than that of the stock bridge, which already has barely any space to move. So try to put that in. Nope. So you literally can see that it's not going in. Yeah, that's not going to work. I'm not sure when this stay trim was made. The legs on this one are just a tad bit slimmer than the Fender version. Okay, so we put, so the stay trim, this stay trim can go in. Again, that one fits and it rocks a little bit. Okay, I'm will maybe guess that this one is maybe a more recent stay trim. Okay, and then we've also got the Fender 65 reissue Mustang bridge. So if we try to pop that in, that goes in, but you can see there is barely any rocking happening here. What is going to happen here with bridges like this, or even the stock bridge, is that when you reach a certain point with the vibrato, either depressing or pulling it up, it's no longer going to move with the strings, and instead the strings are going to try to uh, glide over, which is very problematic with this bridge because there are no actual saddle slots. A Mustang bridge would be a bit more forgiving, especially if you have the saddle slots lubricated, because then it gives them more of a chance of easily sliding over those. But yeah, I mean, this can lead to problems where, like, for example, the actual saddle itself can potentially get pulled because, the springs and things here aren't super tight. You could end up with clicking sounds like this as the string tries to pull on the saddle. And so, yeah, and we already did discover that this bridge was not the quietest. And then if you try a mastery, forget about the mastery legs are even thicker than the American Pro 7 1/4 bridge. I do actually have a mastery on hand, so we say confirm right now. We had 6.8 for the inside. The mastery legs, yeah, are almost 8, 7.92 millimeters. So yeah, there's not a fighting chance in hell that you're gonna get a mastery inside of those thimbles. Whereas with an AVRI thimble, or even generic ones, right? Like these are the generic ones again. And this is not ideal because then you've got a little bit of play. But you can see that the generic thimbles fit over the mastery posts just fine. A tough set bridge, no doubt, will work in here. This is one of the V1 models, and the tough set has the thinnest legs of them all, so you're not going to have any issue here at all, and that will rock with plenty of room to spare because of how thin these legs are. So there you have it. I knew this because I've had to, in trying to put on the American Pro 7¼ bridge on the previous Vintera, just the normal Vintera 2, as well as the Vintera 1, I had to remove these damn thimbles to be able to install this bridge. So there it is. The record is set straight. This bridge won't fit. Let's plug this bad boy in and see how it sounds. And this is our clean tone going through the Fender Princeton reverb reissue. That sounds really nice. This is the bridge pickup. That was just the middle position tone. Sweet. Now our neck pickup tone. Wow, that sounds great. Nice. That is that was our neck pickup tone. Let's yeah, I dig this. It sounds great. It's, you know, we've got a bit of noise. You've got your 60 cycle hum. This is actually better than what I was hearing from the standard Vintera 2. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know if these pickups are maybe potted a little bit better, but that is, you know, pretty standard. This is less noisy right now than even the Seymour Duncan Antiquity ones, right? So that's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Dude, you know, that I am very, very pleased with these pickups. Let's try the rhythm circuit out real quick. Yeah. So just listening to the tones, this set of pickups here, I don't know how much has changed since the initial run of the Vintera 2, or if they did anything special for this particular limited edition. That I'm not sure, but these sound different to me. These definitely sound a bit woodier, a bit darker. They definitely do sound a little more like the Antiquity 1 pickups to me, particularly the neck pickup. It's got that, like, it's got that. got that like sag, that compression to the tone that I love to hear in a good neck pickup. They're not as noisy as, and that is without shielding, so that is good, right? And I don't know, I mean, I feel like shielding can minimize maybe a little bit more of that, but maybe that's why Fender decided maybe that you know, the shielding paint, maybe the quality of the shielding paint that they were using wasn't really making that big of a difference. Let's try it with a little bit of overdrive. This is just the pork loin. That is our middle position. Now our neck pickup. So after spending some more time with this, even beyond the demos that were filmed, I just think that this is a fantastic guitar. There's so much to love about this here. First of all, I just want to give again a glowing review of the finish on this guitar. And I've owned vintage, I've owned relics, I've owned new guitars, and I've had a number of those journeyman in here. This is 90% of the way there at a fraction of the price. I was going to say that this could have been the best sub $2,000 Jazzmaster that I have ever played. It could have been. But I feel like there are a few things that get in the way of me giving that, and that there's a reason why Fender Japan continues to reign in that department. I mean, the king of that for me personally was the Heritage 60s Jazzmaster. Similar features with regards to a nitro finish, though not relic on that one. Vintage appointments throughout, like vintage style pickups, gold guard, all of that. There are a lot of similarities, right? The reason why that one still wins out is because they didn't make the silly decisions that they made on this guitar. My biggest gripe here is the thimbles, right? The thimbles are not something that everybody out there is going to have the experience nor want to take the risk on a $1,700 guitar to try to fix on their own. So that's going to be another cost. I don't know how much, you know, your tech is going to charge for something like that, or if they even have the approach down to cleanly take out the thimbles that are in a Jazzmaster. And I say that because I've seen ones that were worked on by supposed techs that ended up getting butchered around these cymbals because they probably heated it up with soldering iron, were trying to use something, a tool or something to pry them out, which ends up marring all of the finish and wood around. So someone might not want to deal with that. Even if they want to just keep the stock bridge, this thing doesn't rock. It's not locked in place, but I can barely move it. I can barely move it. And that is what is leading to that. It's not sympathetic vibrations in this case. It is a rumbling kind of sound, right? And what's happening here, based on previous experience, is it's because the walls of the bridge posts are actually vibrating against the inner walls of the bridge thimbles. And that is because even though you can barely move them, there is still some play, right? I've had the same thing happen, unfortunately, with some of the American Pro guitars, because those little bridge inserts, the little nylon inserts, the tolerances on those can vary, believe it or not. And some of them don't move at all, and other ones have like a little bit of play. And if you're trying to do a kind of semi-locked down thing, unless you are using a material that is softer, such as, for example, electrical tape, that's going to muffle those kinds of like vibrations. Or if you use like surgical tubing, then you're not going to get those vibrations. You can get the best of both worlds, get a little bit of rock, but it'll mostly return back to center. But when you got metal on metal plus a bit of space still left in between, or in the case of the American Pros, those thimble inserts are made of a very hard plastic, then yeah, you are going to get that kind of rumbling sound. Sometimes you'll even get a kind of clicking if you're using the vibrato. In addition to that, I think that the lack of shielding is just silly. Thankfully, this guitar is not as noisy, and it overall I really, really liked the sound of this guitar. These pickups were nailing that late 50s tone, very reminiscent for me of the Seymour Duncan Antiquity ones, or even close to sounding similar to the Mascus models, though a bit hotter than the Mascus Signature. Not the ones from the Squire, but the standalone aftermarket Mascus. I love that kind of compressed, like woolly, woody kind of tone, especially for a neck pickup. So I think overall the electronic choices here are really nice with all of your, CTS Switchcraft stuff. All of it is quality. Why you had to omit the damn shielding is now going to, at minimum, require someone to take that time to do that when you literally could have just done it, right? Extending that job to the customer is just, it's so, especially when you've been doing it on these guitars like through most of your lifetime. And unless Fender is admitting to that paint being nothing but smoke and mirrors and not actually doing anything, which very well could be, because even the Vintera ones, for example, that did have those shielding were among the noisiest Jazzmasters and Jaguars I've ever heard. So maybe it's that. But everything else here, I don't think that this feature was actually even advertised in their press releases, but I can feel that they did a much better job rolling the edges of the fretboard here, which is awesome. This feels very similar to, if not even better than, the fretboard edge rolling found on the Player 2 models. And that's just really nice. It just makes the comfort of playing, of chording, of moving up and down the neck that much better. I mean, this feels even more comfortable to me, especially too, in part because of the neck profile being significantly slimmer than the American Vintage 266, which has a quite chunky neck, even though it's less chunky than the American Original 60s and the AV65 Jazzmasters. But this one is like a return to form. This almost reminds me of some of the like late 90s or the 90s Fender Japan models, and definitely on par, on point with when it comes to taking inspiration from the thinner necks of the late 50s. And I just wanted to highlight the star of this entire show, which is the neck. The neck on this guitar is frigging heaven. And I just want to commend the folks who are working out of Ensenada, whoever was responsible for doing the finishes or gave the directives for how to do these finishes. What they've accomplished on this road-worn Jazzmaster is a level of relicing that I have not even seen on some of the more seasoned relic finishers. There's like a nice inconsistency and almost grittiness to the feel of this finish that is very, very authentic to the feel of an actual vintage Jazzmaster or Jaguar or Mustang. I have a number of vintage guitars here, and this feels pretty spot on. Even the look of this is pretty spot on. It's pretty inconsistent with the wear, but it's very, very tasteful, right? It seems to get a bit lighter rather than darker, where that wear supposedly happens on this particular one. Usually in real life it gets darker, but still the feel of it is there. This is something this is a nuance that I've actually been wondering about. Like, what is that? What is that thing? What is that mojo? And I've seen it also on the custom shop Fenders. I'm sure it's layers of spraying and then sanding and then spraying again, but then not sanding. And that's maybe what's giving it kind of, if I were to guess, that powdery coat, unless this is that flash nitro process again. But it's got, yeah, a powdery, gritty kind of feel. And I just want to show you real quick. This is like my vintage Belinda Stang build. Pretty much all vintage parts with the exception of the Offset Guitars UK bridge, as well as the body, which is made by Guitar Mill. Everything else is vintage, including this 1966 all original finished neck. And you can see it's got that same patina, right? And you can kind of see what I'm talking about here with the areas of wear getting darker. This also hasn't come down to, totally bare wood, but it's getting close in parts, especially if I stand back and start to show you all of those parts of darkness. And this has that same kind of gritty feel to it, particularly where it's worn through. You can see that there's still quite a bit of gloss left intact, right? Especially on the upper edge of this. But yeah, the Vintera feels like so similar to this. So similar that I am shocked. I am shocked. And again, this is a neck from 1966. The fact that they were able to achieve that level of detail on a sub $2,000 guitar is beyond me. So kudos to them. Kudos to them too for the body finish. I know that everyone's kind of been harping on and on and on about how awesome these guitars are. And I just gotta say, that part of the hype is very, very real. Is very real. I just want to say in closing here that there's so much to like about this guitar. There's so much to like, and it pains me that it's like already 90% of the way there. Already 90% of the way there. There's not much that I would change on this guitar. But the things that I would change are enough so that I have to give the disclaimer to folks who don't have the same skill set, who don't have the same tools as I do, who aren't as comfortable as I am, because all of this stuff that I've mentioned, the stuff with the thimbles, the wanting to swap out for a bone nut, if I really wanted vintage frets, all I would have to do is literally level these a bit to get it, knock them down to 39 thousandths height. All of this stuff I could get done in a matter of, a handful of hours. No big deal. Shielding the guitar, no big deal. All of that stuff, cakewalk, right? But for the average player out there, maybe one who isn't as seasoned when it comes to offset guitars, or maybe they were thinking, hey, I'm going to buy that as my first Jazzmaster because I've been curious and this looks like the one that I'm going to get. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just letting you know and being transparent because that's kind of my job, right? I didn't get this guitar for free. And even if I did, it would still be my job to be transparent with you. And I want to give you that caveat for you to think about it, because for some of you, for a lot of you, $1,700 is a big chunk of change to be putting up for a new guitar, right? And if you are wondering now, oh, okay, so after taxes, shipping, this is already going to be pushing into that $2,000 range, like easily. Now, considering the fact that you'd have a bunch of that other stuff to do, and again, the other caveat is this is one guitar. My test group is one guitar. So do not take anything I say with regards to these first impression unboxing videos as like, you know, the final word. It's literally just showing you my candid thoughts as I am experiencing them, without curation, right? And that's all it is. But this is one guitar. And even if I had 10 of them lined up, that's 10 out of how many thousands and thousands of these that they're making. So, so take that with a grain of salt. If you can go and try these out wherever it is that you, you know, you can, before you buy, to make up your mind, or maybe even buy that specific instrument that you try, then I highly, highly recommend that. But increasingly so in the modern world, that is not an option for folks. A lot of folks only have online, right? A lot of mom and pop music shops have closed down. The power is consolidating under corporate interests, as with everything else. So yeah, so that time of being able to just drive up or take the train to somewhere to try something, and if you love it, buy it on the spot, is increasingly going away. And so buying online is the best option that folks have, and just be smart and buy it from somewhere that has a really good return policy in case something is wrong with it, or in case you just don't like it. But yeah, I dig this guitar. Um, I'm pleased with it. I just wish that those things were sorted so I can recommend this guitar without reservation. But no, I do have to be transparent with you that I did experience those things. They're not fully sorted even yet on this, because the things that I would have to do, which is like replace the thimbles again, all that is not stuff that I can be doing to a loaner guitar. But I know, and I can already tell, like this is the bones of this guitar. 90% of this guitar is already there, and it would have taken the throne from the Heritage 60s Jazzmaster if not for that. Anyway, I hope this video was enjoyable, informative, especially if you've been on the hunt or considering getting one of these Vintera 2 limited road-worn Jazzmasters. If you want to pick one of these up new, I would definitely consider buying one from today's sponsor, Zounds, who again sent me this guitar on loan so that I can review it for you all. I love Zounds personally and have been a customer of theirs for over a decade now, because number one, if I want to split up the gear purchase that I'm making into 6 or 12 monthly payments, they do so interest-free. There's no strings attached, no crazy background checks or credit checks. They don't even need your social security number. They make it as easy as possible for you to finance without using predatory lenders, like some of the other shops use. So yeah, you can get this one, for example, and pay it off over 12 months if you don't have $1,700+ to throw at a new guitar all at once. This one can be split into 12 monthly payments of about $140. So that works for a lot more people and can help get the gear that you want or need in your hands quicker without having to break all the bank at once. So I really appreciate Zounds for that, and thanks again to them. And I look forward to continuing to work with them on future guitar and gear reviews. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, to be notified of new videos as soon as they drop. And if you appreciate what I do, you like my channel, you want to help my videos reach more folks, please consider using YouTube's new hype feature. Apparently there's a button somewhere down there where you can hype this video, and it will end up reaching a wider audience as a result. I guess the more people hype it. So if you can take the time to do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, don't forget to follow Totally Wired Guitars for more offset guitars buying tips.